anonymous man in his 20s, living in a small apartment in Belgium. He does two things: train surfing and train hopping. Train surfing means jumping behind normal passenger trains to surf from one station to another. It only takes a few minutes. But train hopping, that's something else entirely. It's done on freight trains, and it can take hours, sometimes even days. It's a journey that has to be planned. It takes preparation. He says it's a way to escape from reality, from all the normal things in society. It's about doing something unique, something hardly anyone knows about. These are paths most people will never discover. It gives you a completely different perspective. So how did he first hop on a freight train? It started with graffiti. That's how he met a lot of people from the scene. He made videos for Belgian crews and even painted with the One Up crew in Berlin. There's a deep connection between graffiti and train hopping. He says he's loved trains since he was a kid. At 16, he came across a video of Stobe the Hobo on YouTube, an American traveling the world by train. He was immediately hooked. He lives close to train depots, so he started looking for hiding places. Then he began tracking the arrival and departure times of freight trains. Soon he was learning about destinations and stops, researching routes. One day, he found a train going from Zeebrugge to Milan. He called his graffiti buddy and said, "Yo, do you want to take the train to Milan for free?" The train passed through Switzerland, Germany, and eventually Italy. After 13 hours, they arrived. Since that first trip, he hasn't been able to stop. He says it's like a drug. So far, he's hopped around 40 to 45 freight trains. Planning is everything. He starts with routes, which depend heavily on the country. In some places, maps are easy to find. In others, like the former Yugoslavia, he has to use Google Maps and figure things out manually. With experience, he's learned to analyze trains by the type of wagons, the locomotives, and the containers. Liège, for example, often sees Italian companies. At first, they pick trains at random, hit or miss. Now they sometimes use local train spotters for info. Once the route is clear, all he needs is time. Then he packs a small bag and goes. How long does it all take to plan? Sometimes a week, sometimes 4 months. He just needs to be sure the basics are solid. In some places, there's only one train a day. Miss it, and you're stuck. The waiting is the hardest part. His trips don't always start in Belgium. Sometimes he flies to Bosnia, Croatia, and catches trains there. He travels from one end of the country to the other by freight. Some destinations, like Montenegro, were nearly impossible to reach from Belgium by train. He says it's not necessarily easier in Belgium. If you get caught, the consequences are serious. The first time he did train surfing in Belgium, he made a video, and it blew up. Major media picked it up. That's when he heard he could face up to 2 years in prison. That's why he chooses to stay anonymous. In the rest of Europe, things were quieter, except in Italy. Italy was different. He underestimated the country. It's on a migrant route, so border control was stricter. As they neared the Italian-Austrian border, guards spotted them. By the time they reached the depot, 10 officers were waiting. They stopped the train just to catch them, but he and his buddy ran into the mountains. They thought they were migrants and went all in. They crossed the mountains into Austria. There was nothing the authorities could do. They hadn't eaten. They were exhausted, but it was one of the best moments of his life.